OK, first this hour, a new study has revealed that of the Premier League players who received the most abuse on social media last season, 8 played for Manchester United. A report by media watchdog Ofcom has just been released, and it analyses more than 2 million tweets directed at players in the first 5 months of the season. And the study records how many abusive tweets were directed towards players and how that translates to a percentage of overall tweets. For example, Harry Maguire received nearly 9,000 abusive tweets, which made up 15% of all of the tweets sent to him. Interestingly, Cristiano Ronaldo received the most abusive tweets out of any of the players on the list, with more than 12,000 abusive tweets directed towards the Manchester United forward. Harry Maguire, Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes and Harry Kane follow Ronaldo. As a percentage of all the tweets directed at Maguire, nearly 15% were abusive, as we've just said. That's the highest percentage of any player on this list. In fact, 8 of the top 10 players on the list played for Manchester United last season, along with Jack Grealish and Harry Kane, of course, of Manchester City and Tottenham Hotspur being the 2 who do not. OK, let's speak now live to the former PFA chair, Clark Carlisle. Clark, you've heard some of the stats there from this Ofcom report. What's your immediate reaction to what you've heard?
Good afternoon, David. I'm not at all surprised. I'm not at all surprised by the contents of the report. Basically, it's finally a good and quite sizable piece of empirical data that just shows what we know is happening within our game.
When we're actually sort of looking at some of the data that's sort of deep in this report, it's to do with tweets. It's to do with on the Twitter platform. They said that the UK was by far the largest country of origin for racist abuse sent to England footballers. We know what happened after the men's Euros final last summer when England lost to Italy on penalties. And they added that 99% of the accounts which suspended were not anonymous, although it didn't disclose how many accounts were suspended. So 99% are not anonymous. 99% are kind of, you know, they've got an identity put to them. Surely, because there's such a vast majority that they're clearly not bots, then, you know, why isn't there more done to try and contact these people and potentially suspend them from using the platform at all?
Well, this is the million-dollar question, David. And, you know, it's, what do you say, just shy of 9% of those tweets that were abusive were discriminatory in nature. And what amazes me is that when tweets are abusive and discriminatory in nature, this crosses the criminal threshold. So I genuinely do not know why the authorities and the social media companies aren't doing more to, like you said, find and identify, which has already been done because the people's profiles are there, but actually take action on these tweets. And this is a recurring theme around online abuse. And it's not just for players. One of the dangers of this report is that we can get myopic in our view of the issue. This is just a study of A, Premier League players, and B, tweets and posts that were directly sent to those players. It doesn't cover, general conversations between person A and person B. It doesn't cover the rest of the male football pyramid. It doesn't cover the women's game, who are subject to incredible misogyny and homophobia on a daily basis. And I think greater than that, it doesn't cover grassroots football. You know, what people have to go through on a weekly basis, both physically and online, in the context of abuse and discrimination, is so underreported and underactioned that something must be done about it.
There were also some other findings, and this is a few years ago now, but published by FIFPro, the World Union, I suppose, for players, that shows symptoms of mental health problems are more widespread amongst professional footballers than in the general population. Now, that's not to say that if you're not a footballer, well, it doesn't matter. That, you know, clearly it does affect footballers as much as it does anyone else, and it seems like it's actually more widespread in that particular sector. Can you give us an insight as to why? Because, you know, some people will post abuse to a footballer thinking, well, it doesn't matter, they earn so much money, they've got a great life, they won't care. But ultimately, these findings suggest otherwise.
There is no amount of financial income that can offset abuse direct to the person. It not only does it question your identity, it questions your validity as a human being. It totally undermines your right to be and exist on this planet, in your sport, in the communities that you live in. And especially when the abuse is aimed at what is your profession, it undermines your ability and capability to perform at work. Now, what I believe should be the measures that are taken to address this issue. It should take the onus away from the football stakeholders and the social media companies. I believe that there should be an independent mechanism that is a single focus, single point of reporting of all issues of abuse and discrimination that go on around the sport. Because it's not just the players as well, David. I've got to add that I sat on the government's fan-led review panel, and we heard over 100 hours of evidence where a huge proportion of those were from groups of supporters with protected characteristics who were retelling harrowing stories, of the abuse, both physical and verbal and online, that they have to encounter, and not just on a match day experience, but just to be involved in the footballing community. Now, this must stop. And what needs to happen to build trust and confidence in the system to tackle this is that the organisation where everything is reported to, they need to be independent of the clubs, of the stakeholders, of the social media companies. They need to have the regulatory powers where they can investigate every incident that's reported to them, and those involved in those incidents, it's compulsory that they comply and contribute to the investigation. And then on the outcome of that, the results are then reported to the new independent regulator or a whole game stakeholder body, who then decide either to impose sanctions on the individual or club, or pass over to the police if it crosses that threshold of criminality. Then, when you have consequence for action that is tangible both to the perpetrator, to the players within the industry, and to the clubs and the stakeholders, hopefully we can build confidence in people believing that the incident is worthy of reporting because there will be an outcome to it.
You talk about people having a little bit more confidence, and I sort of wonder whether athletes talking about this may also improve the confidence. Earlier hearing from the MMA fighter Paddy Pimblett, who has been praised because of his comments about mental health, and saying that men particularly need to be a little bit more vocal about it after his friend took his life. And people have reached out to him saying, you simply saying this has stopped me taking my life. Do you think that that's something that is becoming a little bit more commonplace in sport generally?
It's a tangential discussion, but 100%. I myself repeatedly encounter either communications or face-to-face interactions where people have shared that, being open about my adverse mental health journey has either informed what's going on in their lives or inspired them to take action with what has gone on in their lives, which I think is absolutely magnificent. That, again, is trying to address what is one of the outcomes of certain behaviours that get to that. So if we can stop the abuse or address the abuse that contributes to that descent in a person's adverse mental health journey, then hopefully we can take away one of the aspects, one of the tenets that may contribute to, a tragic or seriously consequential outcome.
Clark, you speak so compellingly on this topic. I'm afraid we've run out of time, though, but really appreciate you sparing the time to come on here, and hopefully we'll get you on again another time. Thank you.
Thanks, David. God bless.